Desmos is a great tool for graphing and for checking your work in the classroom. So you first start by going to desmos.com. That's desmos.com. And that will take you to this site. And to get to the graphing calculator, you just hit Start Graphing. This is what you see when you log in. You have the graph here, and then on the left is where you type in what you want to graph. If you're graphing in an ordered pair, you just type in as you would the right notation. You have a parenthesis, say I want to graph 2, 3. I just literally type that and hit my parenthesis, and then you can see it graphs the point. If I want to add a label, I can click the label button and then type in ordered pair, and you can label it whatever you want, and it actually labels that point. There are some options here that you can change where you want the label to be, the font size, and its orientation. If you want to change the color, you see where this is red, I just click and hold, and I can change the color, and I can change the style. So I can change it to an X, and I can make it purple if I want. Each time you click here, you're just creating a new line, but they don't do anything unless you actually fill it in, so you can just hit the X's to get rid of them. If you want to graph an equation, it doesn't have to be solved for y. So I could graph something like x minus 2 equals y plus 5, and it will still graph it even if it's not in the standard form. And you can see that it added it to my graph, and I can click and drag to move to so I can see the graph. You can also zoom out and zoom in using these plus signs. If I click on my graph, it makes it darker, and then you see these 2 dots. It always indicates the intercepts. So it tells you your x and y intercepts here when you have the line clicked on. If I don't click on it, those dots don't occur, those points don't occur. So I have to click on it in order to see it. And just like with the ordered pair, if I click and hold on the circle, I can change the style, so I can make it dotted or I can make it dashed, and then I can also change the color. Desmos allows function notation, so I could type in function notation f of x equals, and then if you want a fraction, you type the /, and that will create a fraction for you. So I could type in x plus 2 over x, and then that will graph my function here. If I don't want to see all these other things that I've graphed, I can just click on the circle and then it disappears. The label here for the ordered pair is still present, but I can unclick the label, that disappears. Now when I have 2 things graphed here, you can see that there are circles here. It actually marks the intersection points of these 2 graphs. I can unclick my line, and then I see just my rational function, and I can click and drag. If you want to graph a series of points, or you want to find function values, you can go to the plus, and you can do a table. So I can click and drag this so that it's after my f of x, and say I want table values from -2 to 2. So I can just type in, and I'm just using the down arrow. And then if I want to use f of x, I can highlight this y sub 1, and instead I can type f of, and then I want to use my x values, x sub 1. So I can copy and paste that, and then it will determine those function values for me instead of having to plug those in. I can also just type in f of 5, and it knows that I'm using my f of x that I've defined, and so then it says, okay, that is 1.4. There's a lot more things that Desmos can do. If you go to this help button, you can see how to use sliders, more information on tables, restrictions, which are good for piecewise functions, and there are lots of video tutorials, a user guide, and some getting started resources. But this is the basics in order to graph. And in addition to scrolling in and out to zoom in, you can hit this gear, this wrench here, and then you can actually change your x-axis manually. So I can say I want it to go from -5 to 5, and I can say I want it to count by ones. And you can also change your x-axis and add labels if you want. You can change from rectangular to polar coordinates, though polar is not needed until you get to calculus. You can change from radians to degrees, which is useful in pre-calculus and calculus. And then lastly, if you need to share this, Up next to the help button, there's actually this box with an arrow that allows you to share. So you can click share your graph, and it gives you a link that you can just copy and paste into a discussion forum. You can print it out. If you click export image, that actually gives you a picture that you can download and put into a Word document or upload it into a discussion. And you can choose the size, you can choose the line thickness. I often just right click and do copy image, and then I can paste it into a Word document. This does not copy and paste into discussions though into Blackboard, so you would have to download it for Blackboard. And you can change if you want to try SVG. I'm going to X out of that. And then the last thing that's helpful is this embed link. So if you click embed, this gives you HTML that you can put into a discussion. All discussions, everything in Blackboard actually has an HTML button, and you can paste this HTML by looking at the HTML, and then it will show up automatically. So that's Desmos in a nutshell.